4 attacks in Uri, Shopian, Srinagar and Tral in South Kashmir. Ahead of the third phase of polling on the 9th of December, 11 security men, including 8 army men and 3 policemen, have been killed this morning. A day of terror in Jammu and Kashmir after the call for boycott of polls failed. As Kashmir has been voting in large numbers, militants decide to hit back, and they hit hard. In Tral in South Kashmir, 1 civilian has been killed. 12 civilians have been injured in this attack as militants hurled grenades at a bus stand. And Prime Minister Modi, who's due to campaign in Srinagar on Monday, has spoken out condemning the attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. On Twitter, the Prime Minister said there are desperate attempts to derail the atmosphere of hope and goodwill as seen by increased voter turnout. 125 crore Indians bow to our brave army men who sacrificed their lives. These men lived and died for the nation. We will not forget them.
Indian Army soldiers lobbing grenades into their own bunkers at a camp in Uri, 20 kilometers from the line of control. The goal to eliminate the last remaining terrorists, Fidain or suicide attackers, who'd infiltrated this camp in the early hours of the morning, killing a lieutenant colonel and 7 Jawans and 3 policemen. By the end of the day, the army had taken out 6 terrorists in Uri. But this is not where it ended. There were 4 attacks in Jammu and Kashmir today, just days ahead of the Prime Minister's visit to Uri, where he's scheduled to campaign on Monday ahead of the third phase of polling in the state. Sources tell NDTV that at the moment, there is no change to Mr. Modi's plans. The attacks today took place in Uri, Sora on the outskirts of Srinagar, Shopia and Tral, with sources indicating to NDTV that the attacks in Uri and Sora were synchronized. In Sora, on the outskirts of Srinagar, a top Lashkar commander, Qari Israr, was killed as he tried to enter the city. He was killed in a gun battle after the vehicle he was travelling in was chased down and stopped just 500 meters from a police post that was the target. Like in Uri, the attackers were wearing black uniforms. The police in Srinagar say that they'd been tipped off on the possibility of this attack, which is why they were able to stop it.
यदि पाकिस्तान को इसे रोकने में कोई कठिनाई आ रही है तो भारत के साथ उसे बातचीत करनी चाहिए। भारत उसमें सहयोग करने को तैयार है, लेकिन क्यों होता है कि बराबर जो आतंकवादी भारत की सरहदों को पार करके आते हैं और यहां तबाही पैदा करते हैं इसे हिंदुस्तान में, वही सब सारे आतंकवादी पाकिस्तान में ही घरों में छिपे हुए हैं, उनको छुपा कर रखा गया है। क्या इसकी जवाबदेही पाकिस्तान की नहीं बनती?
Later in the day, in the third terror attack, grenades were lobbed at a police station in Shopian. Fortunately, no one was injured. But in Tral in the Pulwama region, 8 people were injured and rushed to hospital after a hand grenade was thrown at a bus stand. Today's attacks across Kashmir come a week after a 24-hour-long encounter in Arnya near Jammu, in which 5 civilians and 3 army personnel were killed. A clear attempt to disrupt the election process in the state, which has seen a record turnout in the first 2 phases of polling. With Zafar Iqbal, Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
And as the army camp in Uri came under the siege of terrorists across the border, in the heart of Lahore, the Jamaat-ud-Dawa chief HAFIZ held a mega rally, and he had the complete and open support of the Pakistani establishment, with even police providing security and the government reportedly organizing special trains for people to attend. India has reacted strongly, calling it the mainstreaming of terrorism. Ironically, Saeed is designated a terrorist by the UN, and his JUD is recognized as a terrorist entity by the US, UN and other countries. But still, he roams freely, and the Pakistani state is now openly giving him official patronage. Our reporters are fanned out across the ground following today's terror attacks. This story, we have Barkha joining us from the capital, and we also have from Uri, Zafar Iqbal. Barkha, first, just to go across to you, will the Prime Minister's rally, is that going to go ahead for now? Secondly, HAFIZ's rally going on parallel tracks at the same time with today's attacks. Could that be a coincidence, or is there more to this? And the spurt in violence, before the first phase, we had seen a step back in violence, but all that seems to have changed. How can you explain that?
Sarah, let me quote a top police officer from Jammu and Kashmir who basically minced no words. He said It is absolutely no coincidence that Hafiz Saeed is proclaiming hate and spreading venom in Pakistan, and these multi-pronged, synchronized, coordinated attacks have taken place in the Kashmir Valley. He also pointed out something that perhaps we haven't paid enough attention to: the scale and breadth of the attacks and the synchronization. 3 different regions set apart by hundreds of kilometers actually came under coordinated attack. You had Uri in North Kashmir, you had Srinagar, of course, in Central Kashmir, and you had Tral in South Kashmir, along with Shopian, of course, where that 4th attack was unsuccessful, mercifully. So according to our sources in Jammu and Kashmir, this is absolutely designed. It's part of a well-coordinated plan. And what is worrying is that police sources continue to confirm that intelligence inputs remain, that there will be an attempt, and there will be more attempts to disrupt the polls that are due to take place on Tuesday. And of course, Prime Minister's first rally in the valley scheduled for Monday afternoon. Our sources saying it's still on track, but they're having to recalibrate almost all of their security arrangements. And I just want to underline one other point. As somebody who's been reporting on Jammu and Kashmir for 20 years, I've seen boycott calls in previous elections work. This time they did not work. You had a historic turnout even in militant hotbed areas like Bandipur in North Kashmir, for example, over 71% turnout. What we're seeing right now is the frustration at those boycott politics losing their relevance, and terror groups now hitting back, and hitting back strong, trying to create an environment of fear and uncertainty before the Prime Minister's first rally in the valley and this 3rd phase of polling on Tuesday.
All right, so Barkha, sources are telling us that more attacks could be planned, but the Prime Minister's rally will go ahead for now. Let's go across to Zafar, who's in Uri, which has seen the worst violence today. Zafar, nightfall has fallen basically, but the mop-up operations are going to have to continue through the night, making it increasingly more dangerous now for our forces.
Well, yes, indeed, the cordon is still in place and the search operations are still going on. There are a lot of vehicles of the army which are moving around in this area. They are really not taking any chances. In the morning when we were reporting this encounter, just at around 10 a.m. we were told that the firing has stopped now and it's the search operation that's going on. But after a couple of hours, more militants emerged and the firing resumed. So clearly they were not expecting such a big group of militants, 6 of them who were heavily armed. They stormed inside this artillery unit here in Uri and launched this attack. So now the firing has stopped. There's no firing going on, but still the entire area is being mopped up. The combing operations are still going on. The search operations are continuing to look for any more leftover explosives or any more militants who could be hiding in this area. Remember, this area, Uri, is very close to the line of control. In fact, right at the line of control. However, this camp is 2 kilometers inside the Indian territory from the border fence. So obviously sources telling us this could be possibly a group of militants who infiltrated recently. Now how could they infiltrate? Because there are multiple layers of security which are in place. There is a border fence, there is a round the clock surveillance that's going on. So there are some loopholes in the security apparatus as well. Those are also being investigated. Our sources are telling us they are looking into those aspects very seriously, and after the encounter is over, now perhaps they will try and find out how did such a big group of militants infiltrate into the Indian territory, how could they cross the border fence and reach at this artillery unit. They had picked up this unit, they had made up their plan. That's why they launched the attack early hours of the morning when they could take advantage of the darkness and the thick foliage as well as the fog, and that's how they managed to storm inside this camp and to launch this attack. Sarah?
Barkha, bringing us exclusive information from sources at the centre. Zafar reporting, bringing us the view from the ground in Uri. Thanks both of you for joining us with those details.